Hi and welcome to this, the first of 4 reflections to help you retreat at home during the National Retreat and Renew All Week. I'm Steve, an Anglican priest, author, retreat leader and a photographer. You join me today on my walk on this beautiful beach where I live. It can be quite treacherous as the tide moves incredibly fast and you can see how far out it goes. It's on the turn, so I can't be too long, but it's safe at the moment. But it has a spectacular vista looking over to the lakes. My work today centres on helping people use their camera mindfully to see life in all its fullness, discover moments of peace in our busy lives. We might feel we have to go away to enter into a retreat, but of course that's not always possible. Perhaps money or time is a constraint for us. And whilst it can be helpful to get away to a different environment, one of my real passions is helping us discover that we can retreat anywhere. At its heart, retreat is about removing ourselves from our everyday concerns, taking a step back to give us some space to reflect on how we are living our lives. Discover things we might be called to engage with, things we're being called to stop doing. Reflect on how we respond to things. And with this knowledge, we can then advance back to our everyday lives, better equipped to live our life in all its fullness. And perhaps see God more clearly walking alongside us. The town I live is a very deprived northern coastal town. Lots of the shops are empty and the tourist industry isn't what it once was. But as I walk the streets and get to know the people and places, I'm amazed to discover and be reminded that God is all around. And God is within each of those encounters. When we slow down and become intentional about our living, we cannot but fail to see God and know we are surrounded by a great love. And this is, of course, an important part of any retreat. So wherever you are and whatever your circumstances, we can retreat with God. As I look out to the sea now, I'm reminded of the creation story. And early in that story, we read how God separated the water and land. We also read within that story how we are made in the image of God. After this reflection, you may like to read that story in Genesis 1 of your Bible. And as you read it, notice how we worship a creator God. I'm not being anti-science here, which has explained so much about the world in which we live. Rather, I see in that creation story a story which points to the truth that God is behind all we know and see. And it is within the image of this creative God that we are made. We are made in the image of a creator God. So creativity is within our DNA. It means when we are being creative, we are reflecting the very image of God within us. It is therefore little wonder that creative pursuits are being shown to be so good for our well-being. It's also a great sadness that as a society, we don't value creativity or the arts. And many of us feel we are not creative. But if we feel like that, there is good news. Through the marriage of the camera and the smartphone, we carry the means to be creative with us throughout the day. Photography is arguably the most accessible form of creativity to each of us. And we'll explore this idea and how the camera can help us slow down and find moments of calm in a little more detail in our next session. But first we need to prepare for our retreat. And this is the same whether we go away on retreat or retreat in the more accessible place of our homes where we live. Retreat has become a popular word within marketing. It sells everything from spa holidays to bushcraft and mountain walking. And whilst it is important to attend to the body as we do at a spa holiday or learn new skills and nature connectedness through bushcraft, on their own, these things do not make a retreat. A retreat is a time when we intentionally withdraw from our everyday concerns, and having withdrawn, we reflect on ourselves and focus on our strengths, our areas for development, our concerns, our joys, our hopes, our fears. We learn to see me in a new light and how I engage with life. Who is the me which treads this beautiful world? How do I tread this world? How do I treat others? How do others treat me? How do I respond to the things which life presents to me? Do I take ownership of my decisions and my feelings? Or do I fail to accept my responsibility by blaming or projecting onto others? And so I invite you to make this retreat intentional. As far as you are able, remove distractions. Perhaps put your phone on airplane mode between the reflections. Of course, we all have different demands, so don't be hard on yourself if there are things you have to do. But as far as you are able, and for the time you're able to give, try and remove distractions and commit that time to these sessions in this short retreat from home. That time may be a few minutes, an hour, half a day, or perhaps a full day. But don't judge yourself if an hour is what you can afford. Value that time. Give thanks for the time you're dedicating to this retreat and God. And it's important we prepare ourselves for all that God has got to show us in the time we are now dedicating to Him and this retreat. I suggest you keep a notepad and pen with you so you can write down your reflections and your thoughts. You may like to start by slowly and intentionally reading the creation story in the first chapter of your Bible. Allow the story to come alive in your imagination. And having done this, I then invite you to prepare for the following session by reflecting on the me you are bringing into this retreat. The me, who is the me I am bringing into this retreat? To help you answer that question, you may like to use these questions and of course write down your answers and reflections. Questions aren't exhaustive, and if you find any unhelpful, then simply ignore those questions. The first question I suggest you consider is, how am I? How am I? The second is, how is my relationship with God? How is my relationship with God? The third question, what have been my highs and lows recently? What have been my highs and lows recently? And a fourth question, do I have worries or concerns? Do I have worries or concerns? When you've spent some time on this exercise, our second reflection will introduce us to some ideas on contemplation and using our camera to see the divine within the everyday. Thank you for allowing me to walk with you on this first reflection, and I look forward to joining you again for our second reflection later.